You're watching us here on Mad About Markets. We're talking about something that we're both mad about. I, in particular, extremely mad about it. And we'll talk about that in just a bit. But before that, Ritu, what do you think has given the most amount of returns in terms of an asset class over the last few years?
Well, it's very obviously equities.
No, it is not equities. This asset has far outstripped the returns in equities as well.
I mean, you might as well tell us now. We're very keen to hear.
It is sneakers. That's the latest asset in town.
Well, if that is it, how much are you worth, Mangalam?
A lot less than I desire I would be. But let's talk about this business because that's on top of mind, forever on top of my mind. It is a commodity where an insane demand for just some pairs, which are sneakily dropped by companies like Nike and Adidas, always outstrips their extremely limited supply. Classic case of high demand, low supply, and a lot of hype.
Well, that's exactly how hype is created, right? And that is how the business works. The game is a very simple one. Brands like Nike and Adidas launch sneakers in limited numbers. A bunch of enthusiasts like Mangalam Malu here will buy them as soon as they're launched. And then these sneakers are sold at a premium via social media or reseller platforms. But in case you're wondering, how was this culture really created? Let's look at the extent of the culture itself. Now, if you look at the numbers from April 2020 up until now, Google Trends show us there was a 400% jump in the number of Indians searching for the term sneakers and an 800% jump in the search for Air Jordans. People look up online, they buy online, and then they post online as well. The term sneakerhead and sneakers have 1.5 to 2.5 crore posts about them. And then you have on Instagram almost 1 crore posts about Air Jordans and 1.7 crore about Yeezys, which are fashion collaboration between Adidas and Kanye West, or Ye, as he now calls himself. But if you're looking for yet another reason to be a sneakerhead, there can't be a greater connect to your ilk, because in 2021 itself, picture this, sneakers as an interest grew 2.5 times on dating app Tinder. Mangalam, do you need any more inspiration than this?
Not Tinder for sure, but definitely the kind of hype that has been created around the sneakers. And they're beautiful pieces of art. And we keep going back to 2020 and 2021 since where we saw that big jump. Why is that? Well, because in 2020 March, when the world locked down, we were all consuming a lot of content online. And that is when Netflix dropped or released Michael Jordan's The Last Dance. It was very well received, and basketball legend Michael Jordan himself has been credited to the start of the sneaker culture globally. You go back to 1985 when the sneaker culture started. Nike had actually launched Air Jordan 1, for which the demand far outstripped the supply, and people really wanted to flip it in the secondary market. And then came eBay in the 90s, which further propelled sneaker resales. In 2014 itself, eBay's sneaker sales touched $388 million. In 2020, sneaker resales world over were $1 billion market, and that's actually expected to jump all the way up to $5 billion in just a few years from now by 2025. So those are some mind-boggling numbers.
Well, if they're not mind-boggling enough for you, okay, let me just put you further into why this is such an important trend, because these shoes have become serious wealth generators if the time, the piece and their condition is right. In fact, as we speak, these are some of the most expensive kicks. So you have your Air Jordan 1 Chicago for 21 lakhs. I don't know how many people would be spending that much, right? You also have Air Jordan Dior, which is 9 lakhs, Travis Scott and Jordan about 3 to 5 lakhs, Supreme and Dunk Low about 1.2 lakh, and Yeezy 350 Pirate Blacks for 60,000 rupees. So these are the kind of prices you get, perhaps some even more, right, Mangalam?
I can tell you, I own none of these, so my overall net worth is not very close or at all close to all of this. But, you know, the guests who are joining us may have a lot of those. So we have our guest today, joined by Dhanish Chawla, the co-founder of Find Your Kicks. You would remember him from his recent appearance on a TV show where he raised some serious money for his business, valued at nearly 2 to 4 odd crore rupees. We also have Bhavisha Dave, who's the co-founder of Capsule Collective. Thanks a lot for joining in, Dhanish as well as Bhavisha. Let's start with Bhavisha. Bhavisha, what was it about the last 2 years that led to this sudden boom in the sneaker culture in India?
Sneaker culture in India sort of like hit that crescendo in the last 2 years. But it's been in the works brewing since 2015 when the first Yeezy dropped in India. 2016 saw Veg Non Veg, India's first multi-brand sneaker retailer, open its doors in Delhi, and since then expand. But globally, you know, sneaker culture has been bubbling for a really long time. Like, it's not new. StockX has already been valued at more than $1 billion. there are books written on how sneakers have become an asset class. So it was just a matter of time before it became mainstream. And from what I'm seeing in the last 2 years, India has sort of like leapfrogged a whole bunch of other, early stage countries, and sneaker culture has really exploded in this country. I'm seeing Jordans and Yeezys on people's feet everywhere I look. At least in the cities of like Bombay, Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, even in cities like Kanpur. Like people want their Jordans, people want their Yeezys, slides, New Balances. So it's a very exciting time, and like you correctly put it, it's exploded in the last 2 years.
All right, Bhavisha, but what we want to know is, what is the Indian market size according to you?
The word sneaker is sort of like all-encompassing, right? So there are sports shoes, which technically are sneakers as well. The entire footwear market, the non-formal, non-leather footwear market, or actually the non-formal footwear market in the country is probably at what, $2.5 billion, of which the sneakers, for the purpose of this conversation, I'm referring to are the lifestyle sneakers, the lifestyle sneakers that people wear as a fashion commodity. That, in my estimate, and purely my estimate, it's my guesstimate rather, basis my past experience in the sneaker industry in India, I would peg it at around 300 to 350 million. This is at retail. And my guess about the resale industry in India, which comprises today anywhere between 1,000 to 2,000 sneaker resellers, from platforms to individual teenagers who are reselling, I would peg that at maybe like $10 to $15 million. But this is like, this is my guesstimate.
Well, we take your point, Bhavisha, because in India, there's really no formal data to suggest what the size of the sneaker verse is. But companies like Campus, like Bata, Metro, and even Red Tape, they're all banking on the casualization of footwear to really up their games from here. Now, the sports and athleisure itself, that market is expected to be a 21 to 22,000 crore market by 2025, as per Technopack. The athleisure footwear market in India expected to touch almost $3 billion. The total global market, as per Technopack, again, these are estimates, about $250 to $300 million is what is expected. Now, the average premium sneaker price for India, that's quite high, around 15,000 rupees, which is more than 20 times the average selling price of other footwear in India. So there's a huge premium involved, which of course is good news for companies.
It is good news for companies. It's better news for those who trade in these sneakers. And talking about trade, there are serious apps which, like stock exchange apps, have a mechanism for buying and selling these sneakers, or even streetwear like t-shirts, etc. And there are a lot of factors which have led to the growth of this sneaker culture, streetwear culture in India. Let's talk about all of them. The first one, the opening of multi-brand sneaker stores in India. Veg Non-Veg was a store that opened in 2016. Before that, we never really had a multi-brand culture in India. Super Kicks was the other addition that has had a big impact as well. Secondly, on Mad About Markets, we keep talking about the internet penetration, digital payments, etc. UPI and social media made it very easy for people to connect with all other people to buy or sell sneakers. In fact, in just the last 2 years, over 1,000 resellers have entered the market during the pandemic looking for, ways to earn money as well. This number was near zero just a few years ago. And we cannot ignore the culture push that has come in through something like a Desi hip-hop or NBA India games. Globally as well, the sneaker culture has been correlated to hip-hop as well as basketball. And we talk about social media, right? There have been a fair amount of influencers who have spawned the sneaker icons, or spawned to be sneaker icons in India. Someone like Anand Ahuja, who started Veg Non-Veg. We have Harsh Kapoor as well as Ranvijay Singha. Their net worth in sneakers would be worth millions and millions of dollars. And I'm not even kidding.
But I want to ask you, what inspired you to start collecting these? I mean, where did it all start?
It was the love for shoes, and then you kept buying them, And for me, I just keep buying them for the love of shoes and not because I want to trade in them or make some money.
Not to create wealth.
Not to create wealth.
Well, let me go back to our guests on that note. Dhanish, what prompted you to start Find Your Kicks? Tell us a bit about your story.
So basically, I, myself, and my co-founders, we have been sneakerheads for long, and we ourselves used to buy from this unorganized market running on probably a few social media channels in India, and we were facing quite a lot of troubles, which includes counterfeit products and not there is no general pricing, and there is no availability. Nothing is like not everything is available. There is a lower variety. Not every size is available. So we wanted to actually build a one-stop solution where we can actually incorporate each and everything and remove all the difficulties that a buyer who wants sneakers, limited edition sneakers, is facing.
Well, Danish, I've been here. I've always never managed to buy a pair, the minute they drop. So what's your game? How do you ensure that you buy them and source them in all the sizes?
Basically, our source is the people who are getting it from the direct source, that is the retail partners of the huge sneaker brands, that is Nike and Adidas, and their own stores. So, and their own website. So basically, all these limited edition sneakers release on their website, and they are called as a drop. So they drop on their website at a particular time in a very limited quantity, and they get sold out in probably a minute or so. So all those people who are able to procure those sneakers at that time come at our platform to sell those to the people at the resale price, which we call as the resale market.
Well, sneakers getting sold in a minute. What are those sneakers, the ones that are selling the best? And what kind of revenue are you able to generate each month with this?
So average monthly sales for us is almost 6 to 7 lakhs. So that is our revenue, but we move goods for around 60 to 70 lakhs in a month. And probably, as you can see, there's a Travis Scott Jordan 1 lying down in the background. So these are the pairs which do well. Jordan 1s, Yeezys, these kind of pairs are doing well in the market right now. Dunks are quite hot right now, and Jordan 3s also.
Well, we keep talking about the sneaker culture coming up in India, and Wedge Non-Wedge has had a huge role to play in that. So naturally, we caught up with the co-founder of Wedge Non-Wedge, Abhineet Singh, at his store to understand more about this trend. Mangalam,
well, we had to go to that store, look at all the sneakers, and just try to
not buy them.
Not buy them. It's a tough job. Someone had to do it. I took one for the team. Let's watch him.
Purely for ourselves, it's one of the things that we talked about was like, wow, there's no place like this for us to buy sneakers. And we were, obviously, we've just come back from, overseas after our education, and, we're used to seeing like, guys like Supreme, like killing it, and like being able to walk into like, even like a JD Sports or like a Foot Locker.
From your vantage point, where do you see this industry is going? Because there's been a serious amount of hype, right? So what drives the next leg of growth?
Yeah, I think it's more so that, we're starting to see people's taste develop. I don't say that it's, I think it's still an expensive product, and I think it's still a luxury product. We were discussing the numbers earlier, like in terms of how big this market is and stuff. I think relatively still quite small. So it is, it is something of an indulgence to buy.
So does it then make sense to pay the obscene amounts that people are charging for these shoes?
I mean, I would say if you're buying resale, like, you must really love the shoe and you should wear it. I think, we actually don't sell anything above MRP.
Your revenue breakup, one, in terms of how much comes from shoes, then the ancillary products, you have accessories, you have attire, and at the same time you have the sneaker care market as well.
Yeah.
If you could break that up for us. And secondly, is it still a metro-driven market, or are you seeing some penetration in the hinterland as well?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, look, 90% of our sales are footwear. I guess it's a function of also how we buy. And the rest 10% is divided between apparel, accessories, and markets. I think metro certainly drives. We obviously have stores in metros, so that brings in traffic. But online also, like I think, metros serve as the sort of the biggest chunk. But we're starting to see a lot, like especially like post-pandemic or even during the pandemic era. A lot of traction from all across India, so east, west, north, south.